it matters to you, it matters to us. It is Black Video News with your host, Keith Scott. Black Friday Live, San Antonio. Here we go.
I want to thank you all for tuning in to Black Friday Live. I'm your host, Keith Scott. You know where we always cover the hottest topics and subject matter, always with a special guest. Got a unique special guest today. Got a chief right here with the fire department right here in Universal City, Texas. Chief Stephen Darnell is right here on Black Friday Live. How you doing, Chief?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you, Chief.
Likewise.
It's amazing. I just had a conversation with Chief Hood on MLK Day.
Is that right?
And now I got another chief from Universal City right here.
That's right.
How's everything been going, Chief?
Everything's going good. Everything's going very well. I'm enjoying the new position. I'm recently into this position. It's about a year now, so I'm really enjoying it.
Well, tell my viewers a little bit about yourself, Chief.
Like he said, I'm an assistant chief for the city of Universal City. I've been doing it for about 12 months now. I have been with the department for 12 years prior to that, and now I'm in the assistant chief role.
Yeah, now you kind of started out, I want my viewers to know, and for that young guy or that young lady out there that's striving, trying to find their goals or trying to find, what they want to do in their life. Where'd you start? You just started out as a fireman, right?
I did. I started out late in my career as a firefighter. I started at 34 years old in the fire service, which is relatively late. But I was able to hang in there and I worked out really hard. I had to work out extra hard because when you're a little bit older, you got to hang with the young cats. So I worked out extra hard, made the cut, and the rest is history.
Just kind of been climbing the ranks.
Yes, sir.
Now, what is interesting to me, Chief, is that I was having a conversation with our fire chief here, Chief Hood, and Chief Hood said, it's MLK Day, I'm living the dream. For me to have supervision over those fire hoses is really a blessing and remarkable that now I'm the fire chief, and now, what those hoses were used for in the 50s and the 60s, now he has supervision over those water hoses.
Yes, sir.
How you feel about that?
That's very, very true. It's in the 50s and 60s, those very same hoses were used against our people. And it's kind of ironic to be on the other side of that now and to be in charge of some of the crews on these calls and to see the whole picture of how our service is really meant to help and aid people, and it's come 360 from what it was way back then.
Yeah, we got a couple of African-American fire chiefs in this region, a part region of Texas. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool, when I had that conversation, for young cats. Now, when you were a kid, did you grow up saying you wanted to be a firefighter?
I did early on, probably maybe not as a kid, but right out of high school. I was leaving graduation and a lady had passed out, and what I didn't know at the time, she wasn't breathing. She had turned purple, and fire crews showed up and they were doing CPR on her, and they were able to resuscitate her and bring her back. And at that moment, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a firefighter.
At that moment, right? How old were you then?
That was the very moment. I was 18.
18.
Right out of high school.
Right out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
So it took a little while, but then you kind of made the dream come true.
It took a little while. I took some detours. I had I had some growing up to do, and I had some learning to do, and I took the rough road, but once I got to where I was going, the rest is history.
Now, wouldn't you say that's hard work and dedication?
Absolutely.
Hard work and dedication for my youth out there. Got a young man, started at 18, didn't get in the game, but at a later age in life, kind of reached some goals and expectations. That's a great story. Now, Chief, I just briefly want to shift gears a little bit outside of your occupation, and I want to touch on. And I want my viewers to kind of pay attention closely to this part of this segment on Black Friday Live. Now, I know you're on a mission, and I want my viewers to know just briefly, what sparked this mission that you're on. And it's called Fuel the Fire, right?
Fueling the fire of your future, sure.
Fueling the fire. Tell my viewers a little bit about what sparked Fueling the Fire for your future.
Well, people see the firefighter role, and they see I've ascended to assistant fire chief, and I've been featured on a Microsoft commercial and a few other things.
Right.
But what they don't know is what I went through in my marriage in 2014. I was happily married for nearly 14 years, and I went through a devastating divorce, and it wasn't pretty. It got very, very ugly. Nobody ever plans to be divorced. When you get married, you never say, I'm gonna stay married for 14 years, and then all of a sudden you're gonna take a detour and get a divorce.
Right.
So when our marital discord happened, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was in so much pain. I never knew that you could be in that much pain, Keith, and still be alive.
Right.
And so when I was in the midst of that pain, what I discovered was there's not really very many resources out here. What can I do as a man? What can I do for inspiration? How do I make it out of this situation that I'm in? How do I make it out of this depression that I'm in?
Right.
And so that's kind of what sparked my mission now, is to be that resource, to be the word of encouragement for somebody who might be going through something that's similar to what I went through when I was early on in my divorce stages.
Now, you said Microsoft did an interview with you. Mm-hmm. Was it in regard to Fuel the Fire for Your Future?
No, it was actually a separate interview. I did some work with the local photographer, Lewis Scott.
Okay.
And they featured him, and him and I collaborated on this photo shoot, and that photo shoot was featured in the Microsoft commercial.
Okay, cool. Now, let's just go back to, our conversation with Fuel the Fire for Your Future. Mm-hmm. So you got a spark. So how did you overcome this depression? I mean, what did you do? Because somebody out there may be going through this, Chief Darnell. What exactly did you do to kind of overcome the depression, kind of defeat the things that you were going through emotionally?
Right. The biggest obstacle was, do I stay or do I go? As a man, I didn't tell anybody what was going on with my marriage for 2 whole years. I stayed in it. I stayed in a toxic situation for 2 whole years, and pride wouldn't let me tell anybody. The first thing the enemy wants to do is isolate you and to keep you by yourself. And as men, that's pretty much par for the course, because a lot of men know a lot of people,
right?
But most people don't know a lot of men. People don't know us on the inside. And so it was very difficult for me to come to my friends or to tell anybody what was going on with my marriage and my situation. So I held it all in.
Not even your parents? You didn't discuss it with anyone?
Not anyone. Not for 2 whole years. I didn't tell anybody, not a soul.
So you stayed in the marriage for 2 years. Now, going through this 2-year process, were you trying to salvage the marriage?
Sure, yeah, because I believe in until death do us part. And because my parents, they've been married for 48 years, they set a good example for me on why you stay in a marriage and how you stay in a marriage. And so for me, I didn't know what divorce looked like.
Okay.
And I know that's rare nowadays, but I didn't know what divorce looked like. So I didn't plan on leaving even after things started unfolding and unraveling.
So you stayed in the marriage, didn't discuss it, not even with your pastor, not even with your spiritual father, not with your biological father. No. You just kind of weeded your way through, filtered your way through all of the hurt and pain.
Yes.
And just stayed in it, huh,
right.
Chief?
Yes, and that's the mistake men make. We hold it all in. We don't seek out help. And sometimes that pain that I talked about, that pain sometimes is more comfortable than the fear of what you might face if you leave or if you tell somebody.
Right. So I know you've done your research. There really aren't a lot of resources out there for men.
Not at all, no.
So by doing your research, you kind of said, okay, I'm gonna take authority on my own.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what's been taking place with Fuel the Fire and how you're getting your message out to people.
So Fuel the Fire of the Future is my way of just kind of encouraging people to make it through those initial steps and beyond when you are faced with not only divorce, but maybe loss of a job, maybe loss of a loved one. Whatever it is that you may be facing in your life, I think that Fueling the Fire is those initial, just encouragement to make it past those initial steps. And I've created a Facebook page, Stephen Darnell, Facebook page and,
Okay.
and a YouTube page, Stephen Darnell YouTube page.
Okay.
So if you can log on to any one of those sites, you'll be able to see some of my videos that I post once a week, just to kind of encourage people for that week.
Okay, and I see you got something on Twitter too as well, right? Are you just putting kind of like the clips on there, the video?
No, right now it's YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
Okay, Instagram.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I saw something, and I saw one of your messages on Instagram, and that's why I reached out. You know, I said it's pretty interesting. You know, let's have a conversation, a dialogue, because when I found out, you know, about Fuel the Fire, I kind of did some research on my own for my viewers out there, and there really aren't a lot of different resources. And I kind of went through some of this, you know, hurt and pain myself, you know, and kind of felt like life was over, trying to find yourself again as a man, right?
That's absolutely right. It's a whole new world out there as far as getting, not only getting over the hump, but getting back into the dating game. And there's numerous resources nowadays that are different than when we were growing up. Nowadays you can just go online and find a match online or a app. Yes. But back in the day when we were growing up, we had to call and hope the girl's dad didn't answer the phone. You know, but nowadays it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, technology is taking this thing to a whole different platform when it comes to dating. You know, I still like the old traditional way. I want to get out and meet somebody.
Yeah, I agree.
So what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish, Chief, by, you know, starting Fuel the Fire for your future? What are your goals and your expectations?
My goals and expectations are to reach as many men as possible. And it's not just for men, but it's focused on men. Okay. But to reach as many people as possible who are going through a similar situation. I feel like if I could share my story with anybody, to help them make it to the next step of their life, maybe it's to make it to the next day in their life.
Right.
My goal is accomplished. I think that if I can tell my story and help any one person, I think that it's a success.
Yeah, I think you just said a mouthful, because even when you're emotionally going through that hurt and that pain, it's kind of like, okay, the day. How do I get through the day?
Yes.
Emotionally.
Right.
So that's pretty good.
And for me, it was very difficult in the morning and at night.
Okay.
Waking up in the morning alone and then going to bed alone was the most difficult part. That part was gut-wrenching for me. Okay. And I think that if I can help somebody just make it through that day, if they can wake up and see a post or see a video that I put out, I think that's what success is. I think that if we can make it through the next day, we can make it through to the future.
Well, you know, Chief, I want you to share that information for my viewers out there, for that guy, for that female, for that male that may be going through something emotionally in a relationship. How can they look at your content again?
They can look at my content on Stephen Darnell Facebook page. They can look at Stephen Darnell Instagram or my Stephen Darnell YouTube page.
Well, Chief, I want to thank you. It's been a pleasure talking with you today.
Absolutely.
I know you got to get back on the grind.
Sure.
I want to thank Chief Stephen Darnell, Assistant Chief right here at Universal City, Texas, for being on Black Friday Live. I'm your host, as always, Keith Scott. We'll see you next time right here on Black Friday Live. Be encouraged.